Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I crossed over into the role of the villainous male supporting character in an abusive romance novel. The female CEO said she had found true love, and even if it meant leaving with nothing and living in a slum eating instant noodles, she would divorce me. I quickly signed the divorce papers, receiving all of the female CEO's wealth, and pretended to be heartbroken, saying, "I support you in finding true love. I'll bear the pain of living in a big villa, driving luxury cars, and receiving $1 million a month in living expenses." Chapter 1. I woke up to find myself attending a dinner party. Looking around at the overlapping figures in the lights, I was dazed for a long moment before I snapped back to reality. I reviewed the plot in my mind. The original character was named George, and he and the female lead, Willow, were childhood sweethearts. 2 years ago, he used underhanded tactics to force Willow to marry him. Since then, Willow despised him, often going on business trips and not returning home. Later, Willow found true love. She was willing to leave everything behind, even live in a slum eating instant noodles just to divorce me. But I refused, relentlessly harming her lover and doing every evil deed imaginable, ultimately dying tragically on the streets. Sai, the original character, was so foolish. Before the divorce, my wife never came home, lived in a big villa, drove luxury cars, and I received $1 million a month in living expenses. After the divorce, I inherited her billions and immediately became a rich man. My goodness, where could I find such good luck? Thanks to my ancestors, I'll burn some extra paper money for them when I get the chance. I turned around and saw Willow surrounded by a crowd. She was noble and beautiful, and every movement of hers radiated an overwhelming scent of money. I really liked it. After the banquet, Willow and I left together. In the quiet car, I happily looked down at my bank balance. The living expenses had only started 6 months ago, which meant my account now had $6 million. Although the original character came from a rich family, he couldn't compete with his 2 older brothers and was a carefree, lazy playboy. The wealth he received was minuscule. It was still Willow who had the real money. I bit down on my tie, trying not to laugh out loud. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang. I leaned my head out to look and saw a figure lying on the ground. Oh, I remember now. This was when the female lead would meet the male lead, Makoto, and fall in love at first sight, quickly becoming infatuated. She would even give up her family inheritance and become penniless for him. Honestly, I've seen women who are foolish in love, but I've never seen anyone as foolish as Willow. Even Romeo and Juliet would call her ancestor. The driver was already panicked, getting out of the car. I turned to look at Willow, still resting her eyes. "Aren't you going to go check?" Willow opened her eyes, her gaze cold as ice. My little heart trembled. This powerful aura was not something just anyone could handle. Before I could speak again, the driver rushed over and said the person was badly injured. Willow told the driver to call an ambulance. According to the plot, I would follow them to the hospital. Noticing that Willow had feelings for Makoto, I would then start causing trouble, plotting to kill Makoto. Thankfully, I came over early and everything was still salvageable. I said thoughtfully, "You stay here to handle it. I'll just take a taxi back." Without waiting for her response, I opened the car door and left. Even when Willow wasn't on a business trip, she rarely returned home. After all, she owned dozens of properties. The next day, I woke up at noon, had some expensive drinks to rinse my mouth, and then started my luxurious lunch. In the afternoon, I went on a shopping spree. I was almost in pain from swiping my card, but fortunately, this month's living expenses were almost here. Although my life was decent, it still ultimately depended on Willow's mood. I had to check in on Willow and Makoto's relationship progress. Were they sparking with passion, falling deeper in love? If not, I would have to give them a little push to speed up the divorce. At the hospital, I stood outside the room. Through a small gap, I saw Willow feeding porridge to Makoto, forcing him to eat. I knew this scene was happening because Makoto refused to eat, so Willow was making him. TSK. I wonder if I'll become even more morally corrupt than Willow after I divorce her and become a billionaire. Willow released her hand and looked at the man sitting on the hospital bed. "Are you going to eat on your own? Or do you want me to keep feeding you?" Chapter 2. Makoto choked, his face turning bright red, and he stubbornly turned his head away. This poor little thing makes my heart ache for a few seconds. Before long, Willow grabbed Makoto's chin again. Their eyes met, locking in a gaze so intense that even the air seemed to be filled with the scent of dopamine. I was very satisfied and quietly closed the door so no one would interrupt them. In the evening, I received a call from Willow. "Dad wants us to come home for dinner." She was referring to the Liu family's old mansion. Okay. When I arrived at the Liu family's old mansion, Willow hadn't come back yet, so I sat in the living room, munching on sunflower seeds and eating fruit. I heard footsteps coming from the stairs. I looked up and saw Liu's mother. She wasn't Willow's biological mother but the second wife of Liu's father. She walked over, a smile on her face, but it was full of hidden daggers. "George, lately no one's been gossiping about you living off a woman, right?" Liu's mother had always looked down on me for living off a woman, and every time we met, she'd throw a sarcastic comment my way. But I didn't care at all. Living off a woman was my skill. Most men would love to live off a woman but never get the chance. I chuckled a few times. It's fine. Being a kept man is my blessing. Liu's mother didn't expect me to respond this way, and her smile froze a little. Because in the past, if someone had teased the original character like this, he would have been enraged and gone on and on defending that he wasn't living off a woman. I shrugged. She clearly didn't understand me. Right now, I didn't care about a shred of true affection. I just wanted wealth and luxury. Not long after, Willow returned with Liu's father. Dinner was ready in the kitchen. I looked at the spread on the table. Huge lobsters airlifted from Australia, Alba white truffles from Italy, caviar salad, and other high-end dishes I had never tasted before. I had to admit, wealthy people really knew how to enjoy life. This time I was going to eat everything I hadn't eaten before. I began to wolf down the food, even licking the plate clean. Willow watched me devouring everything, her brows furrowing in clear disdain.
Ich glänzte her.
Is it disgusting? It should be. Don't fall in love with me. After Liu's father and mother finished eating, they went out for a walk. I looked at Willow's delicate, indifferent face. By the way, when will this month's living expenses arrive? Willow gave me an odd look. Because George had once been indifferent to money, obsessed with love to the point where even bringing up money was an insult to his love. That was the original character, foolish, but I wasn't foolish. I loved money and money loved me. It came from all directions. Willow's voice was cold. "Do you think I'm the kind of person who deals with small amounts of money?" Ask my secretary. I nodded, then lowered my head to message Willow's secretary on WeChat. A few minutes later, I received a notification that 1 million had been deposited into my account. I smiled in satisfaction. After dinner, the family sat in the living room. Liu's father's words were full of subtle hints urging us to have a child as soon as possible. Willow didn't respond. I, however, nodded in full cooperation, displaying my extraordinary acting skills. With a smile, I said, "Willow and I will try our best." Willow seemed disgusted again, glaring at me fiercely. Liu's father insisted that we stay the night. He was well aware that Willow rarely came home, so he was seizing the opportunity to encourage us to make a baby. Making a baby? Forget it. I didn't want to bring misfortune. Once the living room was empty, with just the two of us, Willow coldly said, "George, I will never have a child with you. Don't dream." Chapter 3. I immediately raised 4 fingers and swore, "Don't worry, I have absolutely no ulterior motives." She obviously didn't believe me and went upstairs. Half an hour later, after I finished showering, I saw Willow on a video call. "Willow, your dad contacted me last night and offered me 80 million to leave you." Makoto closed his eyes, his voice low and sorrowful. "Your dad. He's so humiliating." Willow was furious. "My dad has gone too far." Upon hearing this, my eyes lit up and I wiped the saliva off my mouth. 80 million, I'm really envious. Maybe he can also come and humiliate me. Then I comforted myself. It's okay. After the divorce, all of Willow's wealth will be mine. At this moment, I couldn't even imagine how lively and cheerful I would be on the day of our divorce. The next morning, Liu's father called me to do some physical exercise. I wasn't keen on waking up early, but after spending the whole night on the sofa, I really had a sore back. After doing a set of calisthenics, Liu's father got to the point. He told me that Willow had been getting close to a man recently, and he wanted me to pay attention. Since he couldn't get rid of Makoto with money and didn't want to use force to avoid damaging his relationship with Willow, he subtly hinted that I should find a way to break them up. My goodness, why am I the one who has to break them up? This is an abuse story, but the one being abused is me, and the male and female leads will end up with a perfect happy ending. On the surface, I solemnly nodded and agreed, but deep down, I couldn't wait for this green hat to be firmly placed on my head. Green, such a vibrant color. Willow didn't come home for lunch. Lou's father even specifically called me and asked me to bring chicken soup to Willow at the company. I had no choice but to comply. So I grabbed the thermos and went to the company. When I opened the door, I saw Makoto standing by the desk, frowning and covering his hand. I suddenly remembered there was a plot in the story where I threw hot water on him. At this thought, a bad premonition rose, and just as I was about to leave, I saw Willow quickly walking toward me and pushing me aside. Willow saw Makoto's reddened hand and nervously asked, "What happened to your hand?" "I burned it," he replied. Willow turned to look at me, her eyes full of murderous intent. "George, if you lay a finger on him again, I won't let you off." Well, I have to admit that was quite a spectacle. It wasn't me. Before I could finish, Willow stormed in front of me and slapped me across the face. "The office only has you and him. Who else could it be?" Damn it. Thinking of her entire fortune, I immediately let it go. As long as I endure this suffering, wealth is just around the corner. Willow viciously warned me, "If something happens to Makoto's hand, I will make you pay twice as much." I was speechless. What could happen? It's just a burn. Can't a grown man stop being so melodramatic? "Shut up," Willow said, raising her hand to slap me again. I instinctively stepped back to dodge, and at the same time her wrist was grabbed by someone. I turned my head and saw a beautiful face. It was the book's second female lead, Anna, Willow's half-sister. If Willow was the smart, capable heir, then Anna was her complete opposite, spending all her time eating, drinking, and playing. The two of them had never gotten along. They locked eyes and there was an air of tension between them. At that moment, Makoto stepped forward and gently pulled Willow's hand. "Willow, I accidentally burned my hand. It has nothing to do with Mr. Wong." I almost rolled my eyes to the back of my head. Finally, I understood what it meant to have a male lead with no backbone. But the one suffering was me. He didn't clarify things sooner, and now I got slapped for nothing. That hurt like hell. Willow didn't even glance at me and dragged Makoto out. Anna looked at me. "Aren't you going to go after her?" Although I didn't have much interaction with Anna, she had at least heard of my reputation as a love fool. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling window, looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, and sighed dramatically. You saw it too. I gave my all to her, but she's cold-hearted. Anyone would feel disheartened.
I'm tired.
I don't want to love her anymore. The air suddenly grew still, and I turned to see Anna glaring at me like a hungry predator. Damn, she wouldn't be falling for me, would she? She's really hungry. When Willow returned to the office, I was busy chewing on a chicken leg. I have to admit, the ginseng chicken soup was really delicious, fresh and savory. It was a waste to give it to Willow. Willow squinted at me. "Who told you that you could eat in my office?" I couldn't be bothered to answer her. After licking the thermos clean, I stood up, ready to leave. "Stop," Willow called out to me. "George, I don't love you. This marriage was a mistake from the beginning. Let's get a divorce." I pressed down my wildly beating heart and silently thanked my ancestors. I casually asked, "Are you sure you want to divorce?" Willow pursed her lips. "Yes, a fruit that is forcibly picked will never be sweet. I've already found the person I truly love, and I just want to spend the rest of my life with him." Seeing me silent, Willow thought I was unwilling to divorce and was about to say something more when I stretched out my hand toward her. "What?" I excitedly said. "The divorce agreement, of course." Chapter 4. Willow froze for a moment, her delicate face showing a hint of confusion, but she didn't ask any more questions. Instead, she said, "I'll have someone prepare the divorce papers now." Before she could finish her sentence, a panicked voice interrupted. "Not good. Not good." The chairman's heart condition just flared up. I looked up and saw Lou's father collapse to the ground, his face twisted in pain. Willow's face immediately changed, and she turned and ran out. My smile vanished instantly, and my mood felt like a roller coaster, so many ups and downs. Lou's father has heart disease, so he must have been triggered by the news of Willow wanting a divorce. After taking his medication, he sat on the sofa. His spirits restored as he scolded Willow. "Do you even know what you're doing? Wanting a divorce over some man who just appeared out of nowhere." Willow's expression tightened. "Dad, you don't understand. He's the moon I look up to from the abyss." Lou's father, enraged, grabbed a cup from the table and smashed it on the floor. "The moon, my ass." Startled, I quickly moved to the side to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Willow said she had been raised as the family heir since birth, with no freedom, only restrictions. If she could choose, she would rather be an ordinary person and live a free life doing what she loves. I thought to myself that it was easy for her to say, but others would envy her luck in being born into wealth. The privileged life she complained about sounded like someone else's dream. Willow looked at her father, her eyes firm. "Dad, I've made up my mind. I'd rather leave with nothing than stay in this marriage." At that moment, I found the words "leaving with nothing" oddly pleasant to hear. Lou's father was beyond furious, pointing at Willow and shouting, "Get out!" Willow pursed her lips and turned to leave. I walked over to Lou's father's side. "Dad, calm down. Don't let your health be affected." Lou's father handed me a black card. "George, you've been wronged. Buy whatever you want." Tears streamed down my face as I accepted the card. "Dad, I can't live without you. I can't live without your money." If I had a few more of these black cards, I wouldn't just tolerate a little grievance like this. I'd be willing to perform chest-breaking stunts if needed. Although Lou's father strongly opposed Willow divorcing me, she was still determined to seek true love, and of course I would support her. Let this fortune come at me even more fiercely. But then I didn't expect Makoto to ask to meet me. I'm just a minor male character, someone who can easily be killed off by the male lead, so I refused to meet him. Makoto didn't give up, showing up at my doorstep to block me. When he saw me, Makoto suddenly knelt down, his eyes red as he looked at me. "I promise you, I'll break up with Willow." "What the hell? I never asked you to break up with her. In fact, I'm hoping you two will stay together and grow old together." And the way he was acting, if Willow saw this, she'd think I did something to him. "Get up first," Makoto stubbornly said. "I won't get up unless you agree." "Agree to what?" "I pray every day for a quick divorce so I can get away from you two." Just as I was thinking that, Willow walked over with a dark expression. I immediately jumped back 10 feet. I rubbed my face. The slap from yesterday still stung. As expected, Willow stormed in and accused me. "George, what did you do to Makoto?" This time, the male lead finally spoke up. "Willow, I'm the one who insisted on kneeling. I want to ask Mr. Wong not to divorce you. I don't want you to suffer with me." Willow bent down and hugged Makoto. "As long as I can be with you, I'm willing to face any kind of life." My mouth twitched. That line was so cliché. Makoto looked at Willow, his eyes red. "Willow, don't say anything. I've already decided, I'm yours in this life." Willow interrupted him, stood up and looked at me, pulling out the divorce papers from her bag. "George, let's go file for the divorce now." Chapter 5. Her words fell, and I had already opened the car door, looking at her and urging, "Hurry up, let's go." Willow was stunned. The three of us arrived at the marriage registration office, and the staff looked at me with a sympathetic gaze. Which man brings his wife's new lover to get a divorce certificate? Indeed, my situation was one that should lead me to sudden wealth. As Willow had said earlier, she gave me all the assets under her name, leaving with nothing. She kept only 200 yuan in her pocket, and feeling sorry for her, I slipped her 10 yuan, acting heartbroken as I said, "I support you in finding true love. Let me bear the hardship of living in a big villa and driving luxury cars." After saying that, I didn't wait for her reaction and walked ahead. Once I got in the car, I looked at the divorce certificate in my hand, overwhelmed with emotion. This journey had been so difficult. I took a photo and posted it on social media. Caption: "My life walking on thin ice." Soon comments flooded in, all calling me a kept man. All mocking voices. They even said I was the laughingstock of the upper class. I didn't care at all. They just didn't understand the joy of being a single billionaire like me. After finalizing the divorce, Willow resigned from her CEO position, and moved into a rundown apartment to live with Makoto. They worked every day and ate instant noodles. Honestly, Willow's behavior was shocking, even in the world of relationships. Lou's father, frustrated and disappointed, angrily remarked that he would see how long she could last without the Lou family's support. Willow and I had been in a marriage for business, binding a lot of interests. Now that we were divorced, the Wong family was displeased with me. My original parents and two brothers took turns in the family group chat to scold me. They said I was useless to begin with, and now that Willow had dumped me, I was of no value. They told me to go beg for reconciliation immediately. I was also annoyed. The original owner had never felt warmth from his family, only power struggles and competition for family assets. Wong father and Wong mother only treated the original owner as a tool to be exploited. I simply removed them all from the group chat. Then my phone vibrated. I quickly blocked them. Finally, my ears were at peace. I thought to myself, thank goodness they didn't know that Willow left with nothing. Otherwise, they'd probably be at my door right now. Thinking of this, I decided to go on a trip. What if they found out and came to ask for money? That would be so annoying. I'm a man of action, so after quickly planning, I booked a flight and flew to a small island abroad for vacation. Sun, sand, and beautiful women everywhere. This was living the dream. Now I could say I had truly endured hardship and was finally reaping the rewards. Soon, I spotted a familiar figure among the crowd. No way. Didn't I just end things with her sister? Now I'm running into her sister's younger one. Please no. Anna spotted me, took off her sunglasses and walked towards me. You're not going to beg my sister to remarry, but you're here on vacation instead. Remarry? Laughable. Is my bank account not enough? Or are the women here not beautiful enough? I pointed at the girls playing in the water on the beach ahead. That one and that one over there in a pink bikini, look at them. They're all prettier than your sister. Why would I go back to her and remarry?
Anna Bilinket.
I thought you really loved my sister. Correction. I only loved her money. As for her, I wouldn't take her even if she were given to me for free. I whistled at a girl walking by and waved my hand. I'm busy enjoying life. No time for love. As for your sister, I wish her 2 kids in the next 3 years. Anna looked at me with a probing gaze, as if she wanted to put her hand on my forehead to check if I had a fever. I shrugged, indifferent. The marriage was over, the money was mine, and I didn't need to keep pretending to be emotionally invested. After a moment, Anna asked again, I heard that my sister gave you all her assets. I turned to look at Anna, a guarded expression on my face. Hadn't she already set her sights on enough of my things? Was she now aiming for my money too? I pretended to be casual. Well, that's the case, but it's not that much. After all, Willow's personal assets were nothing compared to the vast wealth of the Liu family. I quickly changed the subject. Miss Liu, are you here for vacation too?
Anna Similet.
Brother-in-law, you used to call me Anita. Huh. I racked my brain trying to recall the plot from the book, but I couldn't remember any connection between me and Anna. Did I miss something in the storyline? Maybe something went wrong with the plot. This was my first time transmigrating into a book, and I wasn't very experienced with the rules. But her appetite was a bit special. Liu's father had blocked the news of my divorce from Willow, so now the whole city was spreading rumors that I was the abandoned husband of a wealthy family. Little did they know I was counting money every day until my hands hurt and didn't care at all what others thought of me. You didn't follow me here, did you?
Anna Similetle zili.
This island is mine. I widened my eyes, surprised as I looked at her. This island had restaurants, hotels, and all sorts of entertainment facilities. You could imagine how profitable it was every year. It seemed Anna wasn't as idle as the book made her out to be. She was actually quite the businesswoman. I grinned and leaned closer. Then treat me to a meal. The thought of this entire island being hers and the potential for unlimited food and drinks made me feel like meeting her wasn't such a bad thing after all. Anna was quick to agree and took me to the restaurant. Once seated, I opened the menu. It was all in English, each letter I recognized, but the combination of them made it feel unfamiliar. I glanced at Anna sitting across from me. She was elegantly placing her order. The original owner, while not a good person, was a scholar and fluent in several languages. I was afraid of making a fool of myself, so I nervously pointed at random items on the menu. After a while, the dishes Anna ordered arrived at the table. None of mine had come. I saw her cutting a piece of steak and putting it in her mouth, making me salivate. I frowned and said, "Your restaurant isn't very efficient. I've been waiting forever." I waved over the waiter. "Why hasn't my food arrived yet?" The waiter smiled. "Sir, the 4 piano pieces you ordered have been played." I was instantly embarrassed, wanting to disappear into a hole. I forced out a laugh and said to Anna, "I thought you might get bored, so I ordered a few pieces of music to entertain you. They're quite nice, aren't they?" Anna didn't even bother calling me out. She instructed the waiter to bring another round of the dishes she had ordered and even pushed a bowl of creamy mushroom soup toward me, telling me to drink it first to settle my stomach. My fondness for her increased greatly at that moment. She was much more sensible than her sister. While we were eating, the beautiful woman at the next table kept making eyes at me. I touched my short hair. Man, my charm was truly uncontainable. Anna noticed the exchange and kicked my foot under the table, signaling me to behave. After eating and drinking to my heart's content, I headed back to the hotel to sleep. In the middle of the night, I suddenly heard the doorbell. I thought it was someone from the hotel and went to open the door. As soon as I opened it, a figure rushed into my arms. Anna, in a playful tone, said, "There's thunder. I'm so scared." Just as her words fell, a loud clap of thunder echoed outside, perfectly timed. I thought to myself, "With how enthusiastic you are, now I'm scared." Chapter 7. Anna looked up at me and said, "Can I sleep with you tonight?" I felt a little uneasy. "I don't think that's a good idea." Anna was like a sly little fox. I couldn't figure out whether she had some ulterior motive. I might let her play with my feelings, but she couldn't mess with my money. She had already loosened her grip on me and walked inside. "You and my sister are divorced. What's the harm?" As I closed the door, I casually asked, "You don't have feelings for me, do you?" Anna paused for a moment, then looked at me and said, "You idiot, you're just figuring that out now." She walked up to me, lifted her hand and tugged on my ear. "George, listen carefully. That year, when you fell off the rock garden and passed out, it was me who took you to the hospital, not Willow." When she said that, I suddenly remembered a scene from the book where it was explained why George liked Willow, because she had saved him when they were teenagers. But it wasn't Willow who saved him. It was Anna. So, Anna had liked the original owner since she was a teenager. However, all these years, the original owner had been focused on Willow, so Anna had to hide her feelings. She only started to make a move after the divorce. Anna and I stayed on the island for more than half a month, then flew abroad to continue our vacation. We shopped, enjoyed delicious food, and had a great time together. We became travel buddies. After spending this time together, our relationship had progressed to the point where we became a couple. Anna's personality was completely different from Willow's. On the surface, she seemed spoiled and willful, but in reality, she was very understanding. Being with her made me feel so relaxed. 3 months later, we returned to our home country. Anna took me to the Liu family's house to make our relationship public. As soon as we entered, we saw Willow sitting on the living room sofa, dressed in a lady's suit. She still looked as elegant and beautiful as ever, with no sign of distress. I recalled the news I had seen a few days ago. Willow had set up her own company. No wonder she was the female lead. No matter how difficult things were, she could always rise again. She was like an indestructible cockroach. I believed that in the near future, she would build her own business empire. Seeing that Willow had made up her mind to be with Makoto, Liu's father reluctantly agreed. Willow looked at the hands Anna and I were holding, her face darkening with fury. "What's going on here?" I knew Willow had always hated her stepmother, and since Anna was the stepmother's daughter, she naturally hated Anna too. The two sisters had a terrible relationship. I nonchalantly replied, "Just what you see." Willow sneered. "Don't think I don't know that you're with Anna to get back at me." I held Anna's hand, feeling her fingers tense up. I immediately squeezed her hand a little tighter and looked at Willow. "President Liu, your skin is really thick. After all the effort I put in to win over my girlfriend, how did it suddenly turn into a tool to get back at you? I'm with Anna because I like her. It has nothing to do with you. Stop trying to make yourself the center of this story. Besides, we're divorced now. You have no right to interfere in my personal matters." Willow froze for a moment, surprise flashing across her face. She was probably shocked because I had never spoken to her like that before. In her mind, I should be kneeling and begging for her to take me back, not standing up for Anna. I couldn't help but sneer internally. The original owner had been far too kind to her, which made it hard for her to accept the new me. I ignored her and led Anna toward the kitchen, planning to see what good food we could have for dinner. Anna asked, "You really don't like her anymore?" Chapter 8. When Anna asked that question, I could clearly sense her nervousness. I gently patted her head and said, "The only person I like now is you. Don't pay attention to what she says." Anna blushed and smiled shyly. Surprisingly, Lou's father had no objections to Anna and I being together. He was even happy about it, saying that good fortune should stay in the family, and that after all the twists and turns, I was still his son-in-law. I had to admire his bizarre logic. On the other hand, Lou's mother continued to look down on me, thinking I was living off her daughter, and ordered Anna to break up with me. Anna, of course, disagreed and played her trump card. She placed her hand on her stomach and said she was already pregnant with my child and couldn't break up with me. I was stunned. What a ridiculous situation. I was still a pure virgin. Lou's mother was extremely dissatisfied when she found out her daughter was pregnant, but didn't dare to say anything more. After dinner, Willow's expression was extremely unpleasant, as though I had betrayed her. I had been supportive of her being with Makoto, and now that I had found a girlfriend, I didn't expect her to bless me, but she didn't have to look at me like that either. It really ruined my appetite. Lou's father, on the other hand, was very happy to hear he was going to be a grandfather. He even told me to start working at the company tomorrow. I figured it would be nice to find something to do, or else I'd get bored. After dinner, Anna and I left. Once we were outside, Willow called out to me, "George." I swallowed nervously. Was she having second thoughts and wanting her money back? I slowly turned to face her. "Is there something? I want to talk to you privately." Before I could respond, Anna released my hand. "I'll wait in the car for you." After Anna walked away, Willow asked, "Are you serious about Anna?" I nodded. "I'm always serious about these things." Willow sneered. "You sure move fast." I understood what she meant. She and Makoto were madly in love but still hadn't gotten married, whereas I had only been divorced from her for a short while, and now I was already expecting a child. I shrugged. "Well, what can I say? In 2 years my kid will be old enough to buy soy sauce. You better hurry up too." The smile on Willow's lips froze, and her eyes grew a little deeper. "George, you've really changed. You're not the same as before." I felt a little guilty, kicking a small stone by my feet. "What? You're not used to me not clinging to you anymore." Willow narrowed her eyes. "You'd better know your place. Don't think about coming after me. Don't worry, you're already a thing of the past for me." I glanced at the time. "It's getting late. I'm leaving." I turned and walked toward the car. Once I was in the car, Anna asked, "What did she say to you?" I buckled my seatbelt, leaned over and kissed her. "Nothing much. She was just jealous of our relationship and made some sarcastic comments. Don't mind her." When we got home, I suddenly looked at Anna and asked, "What if in a few months your belly doesn't show any signs of pregnancy? Won't the lie be exposed?" Lou's father was easy to handle, but Lou's mother might be a bit tricky. Anna smiled, wrapping her arms around my neck. "That's easy. We'll just make sure the rice is cooked and ready." With that, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed me. I quickly responded, wrapping my arms around her. 2 months later, Anna and I held a grand wedding, and the event was lively and full of joy. Willow watched us, her expression unreadable. I couldn't be bothered to guess what she was thinking. She and Makoto still had a long way to go before they could get together, while I had already remarried. She was probably jealous that I managed to remarry before she did. Anna whispered in my ear, "I'm pregnant." I excitedly lifted her into my arms. Finally, I was going to be a father.